Dude, that's an awesome fire now.
If I was able to like tend to it, it would have been great. It just had to be like rearranged and blowed on once the coals got going and it got hot.
I didn't blow on it.
Like I said, it had to just be rearranged. It had to heat up first.
Jeez. Now it's shooting out. As Father Bill likes to say, we have another evening of the Fireside Chat, and as we have covered in previous episodes, we will continue our genre of vocation stories.
Wow.
So tonight we welcome Father Bill to share his family background, how God called him to the priesthood, his saying yes to that, a little bit of the story, a little bit of his history in seminary. Keep it short.
Yeah, not the whole history.
Not the whole history, but then also just his joys of being a priest in his first couple of months.
Right.
So, first, Father Bill, where do you come from?
I actually grew up very, very close to St. Marie Goretti. I grew up on the west side of Madison, off of High Point and Gammon Old Sauk Road area, about 10 minutes from here. I actually grew up going to Queen of Peace Parish, but I have joined the winning team now, and I feel very good about that.
Great.
Yeah, I grew up there over on the west side of Madison, so it's kind of neat. I really never thought I would be a priest in a parish like here.
Dead center.
Especially not so soon in my priesthood. I thought like maybe many years from now. Right. So it's been really nice, the ability to stop by and see my parents. We're just about 10 minutes away.
Or they stop by and see you.
Or they stop by here. Yes, we did make a rule. I told them that they were allowed to come to Mass here, but they weren't allowed to come to Mass here every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
They still had to go to their parish and and all that. But
I think that's a happy medium.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. But yeah, so I grew up not too far from here. It's kind of my...
And you have siblings?
I do. I have 3 sisters. I have my youngest sister, Mary Kate, who actually works for the diocese.
She does.
She's wondering when you're going to send that brief in.
I heard it today.
She actually works with Father Scott in the tribunal, which is the office for canon law, church law here in the
She does a great
diocese.
job. I will say that.
She's the
smartest Van Wagner. Yep.
Well, oh my goodness. I mean, that is just so profoundly untrue. Spoken like a true Marquette grad.
Yeah.
And then I have a sister, Emily, and I also have a sister, Molly, who is deceased. She passed away about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, great family. I love my family very much. We all have very similar personalities, which is, it's just like a ticking time bomb. Anytime we get together, it's always loud and,
I had the opportunity to be with Father Bill and your family for Thanksgiving for a couple of hours.
Yes.
Yes.
A couple of hours is that's a pretty strong dose.
Got a witness of it,
Yes.
So we're good.
Yes.
So you went to Catholic elementary school and things like that. So at what point did you think about having a vocation to the priesthood?
It's interesting because there were like certainly times along my life where it kind of popped in and out of my head, but never, deeply in consideration. I think as a kid, my grandmother, who lived in Wisconsin Dells, my mom's mom told me I should be a priest, and, you sort of say, yes, okay, grandma, whatever, think
keep
about it, maybe not, right?
Give
You want to keep grandma happy, always got to keep grandma happy. That's like rule number 1. But there was a funny story where I was in, I don't know, like 2nd or 3rd grade, I think. And one of my best pals lived kind of across my backyard from me, and we were throwing a baseball around, talking about what we were going to do with our lives, So we were very ambitious 3rd graders already planning our lives. And we were kind of in this debate. Should we be baseball players or should we be priests? And we settled on we can play baseball in the summer and then be priests in the off season.
There you go.
Which never really worked out. Well, half of that didn't work out. But I think there were times in high school where, I grew up going to Camp Gray every summer, ever since I was like 7 years old.
Yeah.
And was deeply impacted. My faith was deeply impacted there. Just being around, young adults, young people 18 to 25, who were
Cool kids.
Yeah, I mean, very like relatable people, energetic, on fire for their faith, a lot of fun. I learned a lot about our faith. It was always this kind of spark for my year. And there was one time in particular when I was like 16 or 17 years old,
Okay.
on a hiking trip or a canoeing trip through Camp Gray, and we were chatting one night around a fire on the Namakagon River, up north of Eau Claire.
Okay.
North and west of Eau Claire, and I said, guys, I think I might be supposed to be a priest. And I never really did anything about that thought at all. Never.
Yeah.
Until obviously, but it kind of popped into my head. But it wasn't really until my first summer then working at Camp Gray that I first really seriously was like, whoa, I think I need to be a priest.
And that would have been right after high school?
Yeah, right after high school,
okay.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you actually took that calling and moved on with it really fairly quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. I mean, it's actually a really beautiful story, I think. I mean, maybe it's not, I don't know. But the previous fall, so the fall of my senior year of high school, my grandmother, who told me from a young age I should consider being a priest, she passed away. And it wasn't shocking or unexpected in any way. But she was in hospice in her home in the Dells. And my mother and I went to visit one time, and Grandma was telling me about Monsignor Felix Orline, who was the pastor of St. Cecilia's in the Dells, who's since deceased, coming over to visit her and kneeling by her bed and praying the rosary with her. And I just remember being so struck by how much that touched my grandma in a way that I could not, as much as she loved me. As much as she loved her children, as much as she loved her husband, that there was something about the priest coming that I could just see it in her face and hear it in her voice, that was so important to her. And she left my mother a little bit of money with the specific intention of giving to charitable causes in her will. So upon her death, my mother decided to purchase a monstrance for the chapel at Camp Gray, a monstrance in which the Eucharist is exposed for adoration.
To show the Eucharist.
Because to that point, they did not have one, and Camp had not had a full-time priest chaplain for many years at that point. And so then that following summer, the first summer I was working there on the staff, full-time working in the kitchen, we had a monstrance in the chapel, and I didn't have a lot of experience of Eucharistic adoration as a kid. But even without a priest chaplain there that summer, the staff really wanted to have Eucharistic adoration very, very frequently. And there was, so praying in front of that monstrance was where I really heard the Lord's call. And, I can't help but think it was, somehow my grandma in her death, showed me my vocation through that gift of that monstrance, through the gift that she gave in order to make our Lord, present and visible to me.
And so it's through that time in adoration that you found that God was calling you to a vocation to the priesthood. Is it something that, I'm done with high school, this is, I guess, maybe where God is calling me to, or this is in contrast, like you had another plan and this kind of overpowered it?
Certainly, no, definitely the latter there. I started going to pray. I started to have a routine of daily prayer, which I'd never done before in my life, which was blowing my mind. And there was finally one night where it was a Thursday night, and it was about 11:30 p.m. where there was going to be adoration from 11 to midnight, more or less. And I went into the chapel to pray, sat on the left side, the fourth pew. I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. And I know even the two other people who were in the chapel with me at the time, I remember. And sat down to pray, and it was just like this wrestling match. And then finally at a certain point, I was just like, what's the point of wrestling with this? I don't want to do this, but if God wants me to do this, then who am I kidding? if that's what I ought to do. I'm not going to win this fight. You know, if I go against what I perceive to be God's will for me, it's a lose-lose situation.
It is, yes.
If I just lay down and say, well, okay, fine. And that was, I basically said to the Lord, okay, I give up, fine. If you want me to do this, I'll do it. And to be honest, it was quite begrudging, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know why you want this. I think this is ridiculous, but I'll do it. I'll give it a shot. Probably won't last that long.
And so you entered seminary a couple weeks later?
Yep. That night I stayed up all night looking up things about the seminary, download the application from the diocesan website, sent an email to the vocation director. The next, that following Sunday, so Thursday to Sunday, that Sunday he came and took me out to brunch.
Nice.
Told him,
nice guy.
Told him I want to be a priest. I want to go to the seminary. I'm certain of this, right? And I just have to do it now. And I had no intention of going to college previously. Not really anyway, at least not initially, like not right after I graduated.
Correct.
So I had to do all sorts of things, and everything happened really fast. And,
super fast.
And all of a sudden, I was 18 years old in the seminary.
In the seminary.
Yeah.
So that's a different route than maybe what I took.
Mm-hmm.
So that you can do it in two ways. You can go to college, and then it's a 6-year program after that, or you can go right out of high school, and it's 8 years altogether.
Yep.
So you went to Winona?
Yes, I did 4 years of undergrad at St. Mary's University in Winona, Minnesota, which I affectionately call Win-Nowhere. I enjoyed my time there, though.
Any good restaurants there?
There is not a. It is a culinary wasteland. There are no good restaurants in all of Winona. You have to drive to Rochester or Wisconsin. Because it's right on the river, you know. But it is lovely, especially in the fall and in the spring. It's quite lovely. The winters are brutal because in the valley, the cold air just hangs down there. But I actually really like
Gray
the cold.
skies. So, yeah. Okay. So Winona, then you ended up in my neck of the woods.
Yes, I did 2 years at the Pontifical North American College in
and we were together.
The beautiful city of Rome, where Father Scott and I were together there for 2 years.
So all your formation is because of me?
Yeah, it's like, you know, when you look at something and like, okay, I want to do the opposite.
Formation.
That's formation. Yeah, I did 2 years there. Had many lovely, truly beautiful experiences in the city of Rome. Love Italy. Love Italians. Yeah. I'm one of the weird guys at the North American College. Generally, everyone's like, Rome is a pain in the butt and the Italians are crazy. But I was like, Rome is awesome. The Italians are the best. I love this place. Love these people. And then after that, after 2 years there, I took a year off from school. Yep. Because, you know, 6 straight years of seminary. You know, starting right out of high school, I needed a little break from the old academic world and
it's all good
things like that. So I stayed in a parish at St. Clair of Assisi in Monroe. Yep. Had a great year down there. And then ended up transferring seminaries to Sacred Heart in Detroit, Michigan, where I finished my seminary formation. Detroit, as the French might say. Lovely city.
And then ordained here just this last
summer? I was ordained on June 28th, the Solemnity of the Most Sacred Heart of Jesus, right here in this church, St. Maria Goretti, which was very cool. And it was very neat knowing, like, I'm being ordained in this church, and then I'm going to serve here as the parish priest. It's like, that's really cool. And because it's very neat for me, you know, to be able to draw from that experience of, you know, the very, like, profound spiritual moment of ordination, right? And remember, I was standing here and felt this and felt the Lord's presence and knew the power of God's grace right here. So on days where, you know, it's just like I'm a little off, you know, I'm walking into that same church and I can kind of call to mind, remember that day where you were ordained a priest here?
Anything else in your vocation story you'd like to share? Or I
don't know, I think we pretty much covered it. There are days where I wake up and I look at myself in the mirror and I go, you are a priest. And then I feel like my reflection sort of responds to me like, there's no way that's possible.
No way.
So it's beautiful.
But by the grace of God.
But by the grace of God, that's exactly right. I mean, you know, I'll just say this last thing. It's like, the day before, a couple days before my ordination, I practiced celebrating the Mass in the basement chapel of the rectory at St. Cecilia's Parish in Wisconsin Dells, where I was staying at the time. And then the morning after my ordination, I celebrated a private Mass. Said the exact same words, did the exact same things. And I'm looking down at that host just going like, this is insane.
Yes.
Now in front of me, in my very fingertips, stands the living God. Whereas 3 days ago I did the same thing, and it was just a really tasteless piece of bread.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, it's overwhelming, it's beautiful, it's humbling.
Your life was transformed.
Simply by God's grace.
By God's grace.
All I had to do was stand up and say present.
And our Eucharist is transubstantiated before us.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's the greatest gift a human being could be given, the Eucharist, and it's the greatest gift I could ever be given, the priesthood.
I know I'm grateful for your priesthood, Father Bill. Certainly to see you through seminary to this point certainly brings a lot of great joys to my life. And to see you grow in your priesthood here at St. Maria Goretti is a wonder to behold in many ways.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wonder.
A wonder. And I know many people are at St. Maria Goretti are grateful for your presence here and for their your spiritual guidance that you give them, ultimately the sacraments, most importantly, that you give them. Of course. So we're grateful for God for the vocation that He has given you and what you are able to share with each and every one of us. So
wonderful.
With that, Fireside Chats continue on. Please submit your questions online. There's a submission form, which you can find on our website. Always, we look forward to your comments. We read every comment that you ever send in.
Yes, we do.
Whether good or bad. But I know he needs a new haircut. We're working on it.
Oh, boy.
But send your questions in, your comments, and we look forward to you at the next Fireside Chat. St. Maria Goretti,
pray for us.